travel has its own challenges, good parts, do's and don'ts. So what I thought, while I'm at home, and I thought I should spend summer at home, we can discuss some of those challenges. So I'm going to be doing episodes. So today is going to be episode 1. And what we're going to talk about today is travel health insurance. And there's a good reason why I'm tackling this topic as one of my first topics as a first episode as well. I'll tell you later. Now, if you're a traveler like I've been doing, you need to have, or it's important, or it's advisable to have a travel insurance. For simple reasons. If you have an accident abroad, you need emergency treatment, you need surgery, you need just ordinary treatment, or anything to do with medics, it's important that you do have one of these travel insurances. Because believe me, when you're out there, that you're treated as a private patient. And some of the countries, they won't even touch you unless they can see evidence of your travel insurance. So but you can get a travel insurance anywhere, online. You can go to supermarkets, like Asda here in this country, Sainsbury's, Tesco. You'll be able to get a travel insurance. So, and they're very cheap. Some of them as little as £4 or £5, but you have to be mindful of what insurance you take out, because not all travel health insurances offer same policies. So you have to look at the policy, whatever policy you want to buy, but make sure you read the small letters, because a lot of them will cover you for emergency in that country, but they won't cover you for repatriation, what they call repatriation back into your country. I'm lucky, I've got a platinum card with my bank, which means that I've got a travel insurance included in that. So I don't have to buy one, but that's included. But it was a rude awakening when I went to Seville and I had an accident. That's when I realized that actually the platinum travel insurance only covered me to have treatment in that foreign country, but not to be repatriated back into my country. They want to treat you there, and once you're better, then you can travel back to your country. Excuse me. Apart from the heat, there's also pollen count is so high, and I tend to be affected by pollen and allergens. So, excuse me if I'm coughing. So I've taken some antihistamines, but it's too much. Apparently pollen count is very high today. So you look at the policy. What do you need it for? Mostly you can't anticipate what's going to happen to you. You could have an accident, you could fall ill naturally, you could contract an infection. So if you're fit and well, then you can just opt out for an insurance which is not very expensive. If you've got pre-existing medical issues, you should divulge that information to wherever you're purchasing the insurance, travel insurance from, health insurance from. Otherwise, if you fell ill and you've got a pre-existing ailment which you didn't tell them about, they might turn around and say, no, we can't pay for this. And then you're stuck. Also, if you're going to do activities, like scuba diving, mountaineering, and anything which is quite risky, which there's a likelihood that you might fall or you might injure yourself, that is another one. You can take an extra insurance apart from that, just the ordinary one. So, and the policies differ from exactly what you need that policy for. If you fit and healthy, then you can just take a standard policy, but make sure you look at the little writings at the bottom. because no matter what, it looks glossy and they might just sell it to you. But then when the challenge comes, then you find out that they're not able to pay for your policy or to help you while you're out there. Basically, most of them, the travel insurance, they cover the expenses related to the costs if you became ill or injured while traveling away from home, especially in a foreign country. Now, don't mistake the travel health policy with the health policies you have in your own country. Those are totally different things. If you've got a health policy, so that you can be fast-tracked for medical surgery. We have a free national health in this country, but sometimes the waiting lists are very long, and you might want. A lot of people do take out a health insurance, but it's nothing to do with travel health insurance. Travel insurance and just ordinary health insurance to get fast-track treatment in your own country are not the same. Your policy, the policy for your own country, some of them might, but it's best to find out whether it can cover you as well when you're abroad. So that's up to you. What I found with my travel insurance, which I got with the bank, was a basic one. It did not include repatriation. This is when you're sent back to your own country, sort of after. Usually the policy I have with the bank is they want to do the emergency treatment or whatever you need in that country where you are. So they'll pay for you to have treatment there. And then when you're better, you can fly back normally. I didn't realize. So when I got injured in Seville, I'll let you know at the end of I got injured in Seville, and they were very good and were going to pay for my treatment and my surgery while I was there in Seville in Spain. So, but then when they started explaining to me what was going to happen, this is the insurance people, they said this policy does not include repatriation before treatment. So I'd advise you to make sure that if you've got a policy, look at the bottom, or get one. Like me now, because I'm traveling quite a bit, I usually top up my travel insurance. The one with the bank, and then I usually buy a policy which can repatriate me back to my country straight away. So you have to be mindful of that, and you only can tell or can check that information. It's very, very important. So basically, usually a travel health insurance usually pays for your expenses related to costs if you became ill or injured while traveling away from home, especially in a foreign country. It covers emergency medical treatment, doctor visits, hospital stays, surgery, or emergency care. There's a limit to what policy we've bought, and that's another thing. They vary. Some of them are extremely expensive, and of course the care you get is different to just basic policy. So the more you pay for your policy, likelihood is that the more you get a good good care out of it. So it's best to search around and look to what you really want and what you think is suitable for you. So as I explained, so the medical evacuation, which is repatriation, you have to look at your policy. It might not cover you for that. You might have to wait in that foreign country until you're well and before they can fly you back. So if you think that you might need a repatriation, or there's a likelihood, not everybody knows that they're going to be injured or going to fall ill. So in the likelihood that you need repatriation, so you check the policy, and it's called evacuation. And basically it's repatriation, taking you back from point of injury back into your own country from a foreign country. So it is basically what you're paying for is medical expenses, whether emergency, or after injury. So that's what you're paying for. So now, another important thing with these insurance policies, one of the things they usually ask for, especially let's say you got injured like I did, you have to prove that you were sober when you sustained that injury. Otherwise, if you sustain that injury under the influence of alcohol, the policy might not be able to be executed to you, to help you. You might find yourself that you have to pay out of your pocket. And believe me, some of the policies, like a basic policy, like they are like for ill abroad, because they've got to pay for the hospital costs and everything. And some of them, they start, the basics would be just like 25,000 English pounds. And have you got that from your pocket straight away? And some of them, like mine, was quoted at 35,000 because I needed a little bit of surgery on just below my knee. So the hospital, I stayed in hospital for a week, and the cost came to almost 30,000 before surgery. So it's very important. I would have been stuck. And believe me, the first question when the ambulance arrived, the hotel called the ambulance. And when the ambulance arrived, the first thing in Seville, they hardly speak English there. Madrid and Barcelona in Spain, they speak English, a lot of English. But Seville, where I was, hardly spoke English, even the doctors and nurses. So, and I was there for about 7 days, and you can imagine that sort of money, almost 30,000, where was I going to get it from? Out of my pocket is a lot of money. So I'm lucky I had that policy. So that's, leave that alone. So alcohol is an issue. Like if you tripped and fall like I did, if I was, it was out of alcohol consumption, the policy might not have paid for my for my treatment. That was the first question they asked me when I phoned the company which my bank deals with travel health policies. The first question was I drunk? And I wasn't, of course. And also, that's the first question when the ambulance arrives. Policy, even if they can't speak English, policy, they know how to ask policy. They asked me policy, they couldn't speak English, the ambulance men and women. I said, yes, I have policy. That's when they were able to stabilize my leg and put up a morphine drip because it's in a lot of pain. And when I went to the hospital, the doctors came into the ambulance to ask me, do I have a policy? And I said, yes, I have. That's the only reason why I was admitted to this hospital. Otherwise, if I didn't have a policy, they just said no. You have to find a private hospital to look after you or whatever you want to do. It's not their responsibility. As I touched on pre-existing medical issues, you should divulge those. Because if you fall ill out there and it's due to one of your problems, your medical problems, they also might turn around and say, we can't support you. And that would be very, very disturbing and frightening, especially that you had a policy with you and they said this policy can't cover you because you didn't tell us that you had this medical issue, which has been ongoing, like chronic issues, cardiac problems, asthma, what else? A lot of a problem, diabetic and all that. So make sure, epilepsy, you make sure you tell when you're purchasing the insurance that you divulge all that information. It will work in your favor than their favor. Okay, now, if you are also going to do activities, as I said, like scuba diving, you need to probably buy an additional policy to cover you for that. Mountaineering and all that. You have to, skydiving, you have to get another insurance to cover you for those adventures. Coverage period, it varies. My policy includes the rest of my family. That is the one which my bank which I rely on from my bank. My whole family, immediate family, husband, children, they're all covered. And after that first injury, and after 30 days, you can still, if you fail again ill, they can still be covered by that. Others, they only cover for a few days. Others will cover for a few weeks. Others will cover for a month. Others will cover for a year, and others will be long-term cover. Like my health insurance with the bank, I think covers me indefinitely while I need it, and my family, obviously. But as I said, it doesn't cover repatriation. So I'm mindful, because I travel quite a bit, that I usually make a backup other policy which actually has repatriation, so that both of them can work in my favor. It's not much. The travel insurances are not that much. It's very important, especially like me, who's traveling all the time. I'm away from home. Like in the last 4 weeks, I've been to 2 countries. I've been to France, and I've been to Tuscany in Italy. So I need, sort of to be covered. For that little bit of money you pay to buy the cover, you might find that it's your savior. Otherwise, you must have to find thousands and thousands of pounds, which I don't think many of us have. Age is a factor as well. The older you are, the more expensive the policies are. It's because mostly the older you are, a lot of people have 1 or 2 issues, which of course you would have divulged to them, and the more you have a health issue, the more the insurance cost is going to be higher than somebody with fit and young. So also that is to be mindful of, and what you think is not serious, but just tell the insurers that you have this condition, it's chronic and doesn't give you a problem. But you never know when it starts giving you a problem, and when you've taken out a policy and you didn't mention just that little bit of a chronic condition, and that might cost you a lot of money. Sorry, I've got a frog in my throat, as they say in England, and that just means I've got to clear my throat all the time because of all these allergens I've got. My eyes are watering, my nose is running, and my throat is also a little bit itchy. But other than that, I'm fine. And also some policies can just be for one trip. When you come back, the policy ends there. And if you're going to go out again, you make sure that you take another policy going out. So I think that's mostly what travel health insurance is. Basically, it covers you for emergency care while you're abroad, away from home. And a lot of countries in Europe, if you're a foreigner, even if you've come from England, we're not part of the EU at the moment. So maybe before we came out of the EU, that some hospitals or some countries might accept you without much cost, like they are ordinary countrymen or women. But now you need a policy to go to Europe in case you got injured. My roots are in Africa, in Zambia to be precise. The health service out there, national health services are absolutely not what I expect. So in those countries, you just have to make sure, because even to have sometimes some clinics or even some hospitals, even to have blood tests, you have to pay for the cannula to take blood and the bottles for taking blood, for putting in the blood. If you need a paracetamol, you can't get it. You've got to go and buy, and once they've looked at you, after you, the doctor will give you a prescription to go and get medication for yourselves. And I've just discovered, it's unfortunate, one of my relatives is not very well. And even at the cancer center, there's no exemption. You have to pay for chemo. You have to pay for everything, you know. So can you imagine if you're ill as a foreigner? That is an added burden. Unfortunately, it is what it is. So I travel a lot. I go to Zambia, my country, sometimes 2-3 times a year, and I make sure that I've got the policies in place, and that some of the policies I pay, like repatriation, because of the services, they might not even have the machine. Let's say you need CT scan. The machine might not even be working. So it might mean that you'll have to fly back as soon as possible back to your own country to have those done. So it is very important that you do get a policy to cover you, to cover your health, basically. Emergency care, staying in hospital. They even charge you for food. Even using a commode in a hospital, they'll have to charge you for that, using a bedpan. Everything is put on, there's stickers everywhere to put whatever you've used. Food, you know, bedpan, how many baths you've had a day, everything you have to pay for. And it comes up, comes up to be thousands and thousands of pounds. So my fellow family, gal on the move, I thought I'll sit down and go through this and let you know that how important taking out a travel health insurance is. We'll be looking at some of the challenges like visas. This is episode 1. So this is travel health insurance episode 1. So I also want to cover visas, how to obtain a visa and what is required of you. And the health insurance might come into the visa as well. So some countries won't give you a visa unless you've got a travel health insurance. So that will be episode 2, looking at how to go about getting a visa and how to prepare to get a visa. So that'll be episode 2, and then there'll be other various episodes. Like I travel solo on my own as a woman, a mature woman. So I like to make sure that I'm safe wherever I'm going, whichever country I'm going. So that means I have to take certain measures and avoid certain things or certain places just to be safe. So those ones I'll be covering. So it'll be about, this is episode 1. So there'll be another maybe 2-3 episodes also to talk about, traveling on my own, visa issues, how to be safe. And maybe the 4th episode will be how to source some reasonable, cheap tickets so that it doesn't break the bank. Come to my little story. To be precise, it was about the 4th of February 2024. And my flight to Seville, everything was straightforward. Got there, got a shuttle to the hotel, arrived in the evening at about 8. Then luckily enough, this boutique hotel had some dinner. So we could still order dinner at 8. Because some hotels in the evening after 7 o'clock, they stop taking orders. But they made sure that we had dinner when we got there. There was a few of us, about 8 of us in this minibus which took us to the hotel. I was on my own. And got to my hotel, checked in, went and had something to eat, went to my hotel room. Went to sleep. The following day, breakfast was being served on the rooftop of the hotel. And what I didn't realize was the rooftop was there was a fountain and the manager of breakfast and everybody were there. And basically, you open the door from the hotel to get onto the rooftop, and the person was in charge. I opened the door and they were across there and they said, "Hello, good morning." And for the life of me, I wasn't looking down, me thinking I opened the door and the floor is flat. No, there was a dip about a foot and a half. Basically, I catapulted from the doorway to the ground. And I can't explain the injuries I had. And I don't know how I catapulted because I injured my arm. This arm, though I felt that way, had a graze on my shoulder. There was a fountain which was concrete, and I grazed this part, my right side of my forehead. So you can imagine how I catapulted, and of course landed on my knee, which meant that I fractured my fibia. And I could actually see, from where I landed, I could actually see the bone from inside. I didn't want to be graphic, but that's how bad it is. And I tried to get up, for the life of me, and I'm not kidding you. I tried to get up. It's like the left leg was missing. There was no gravity in my left leg, as if it was just in the air. I basically couldn't feel that I had a leg on the left, like I had no leg at all. So I just lay there, so everybody saw what was happening. Luckily enough, at breakfast, there was a French doctor there who had arrived the night before as well, and came and had a look at me and just said because I screamed when I fell, and everybody scampered to see what was going on. And he said to the manager, I think you need to call the ambulance. She's injured herself badly. And the ambulance was there within 10 minutes. And the first question, as I said in my vlog earlier on, the first question they asked me, they don't speak much English, and they said, do you have insurance? And I said yes. That's when they mobilized my leg. No, they put up a drip of morphine first and then immobilized my leg before they can take me into the ambulance. And as I said, they were very nice, but they could speak any English. They couldn't speak any English. So we go to outside the nearest hospital. It was Macarena Hospital in Seville. It's one of the biggest hospitals there, and which had A&E, accident and emergency. And outside in the ambulance bay, the doctor came in and asked the same question: do you have insurance? Before they offloaded me from the ambulance to the ward, to the accident and emergency treatment ward. So as I said, they were going to operate. If they had operated on me, it would have been in thousands, but just the care. For 1 week I was in hospital, never going back to the hotel. But they kept the hotel for me, and because I'd paid for the hotel room, kept my luggage there. And when I was leaving, they brought the luggage back to the hospital for me, which was very nice of them. I didn't have to. And basically, I was supposed to be operated on there, but the surgeons were pushed with their own waiting list. They promised to do the operation in one breath, and they said to me the night before to be nil by mouth and everything. But they come the following day. They said they had a big case, and who understood. But come the day of the operation, they overran with the case, and that's when though I didn't have the repatriation insurance, but my insurance jumped in and said, listen, you've waited enough for this operation to happen, and the success rate was within the first 3 days, and it was coming to 7 days, and I hadn't been operated on. So that's when they decided, okay, we're going just to put in repatriation. So they repatriated me back from Seville back to England, which was very nice. The ambulance came to pick me up from the hospital to the airport, and identified nurse and doctor on board. And when I got to Manchester Airport, another private ambulance was waiting for me, and they took me to a hospital which is nearest to my home. So it was straight from the airport to the hospital, and then the orthopedics from that hospital took over. So that was my little story. Now, if I didn't have that medical insurance, I would travel medical health insurance, I would have been in real trouble, because, as I said, it was almost, just without the operation, it was almost 30,000. Just bed, food, and medications. I was constantly on morphine because it was so painful while I was waiting for the operation. So that is my little story, and I thought I'd address it today. I meant to address it sometime, because the reason for going to Seville, I wanted to go there and start my YouTube vlog there. I joined YouTube, I think, the year before, but I hadn't done any vlogs, and my first vlog was going to be in Seville, and unfortunately it didn't happen. So, and it took almost 18 weeks for me to get back on my feet again. And that's when I started 2024, end of 2024, that's when I started doing my YouTube vlog, or posting on my YouTube vlog. So it's only been a couple of years, or almost, yeah, a couple of years, proper couple of years, and some months since I've been doing these vlogs, YouTube vlogs and posting. So that is my story. And so, family, Gal on the Move fam, make sure if you're traveling far from home, out of the country, even if you have your own policy, medical policy for this country, don't take it for granted that that can cover you as well abroad. Make sure you check that it covers you. If it doesn't, then you need to take a travel health insurance, and then you'll be happy. Once you're ill, they'll look after you wherever you are. Or they're interested in abroad, if you're not their countryman, they're not going to waste their money on a foreigner who hasn't got a policy. Everybody's budgets are tight, and if they looked after everybody who fell ill in their country without a policy, then it's a lot of money which goes towards that. So it's Gal on the Move. We are on the move. We've got a wedding in one of the Central African countries in the next 2.5 weeks or so. So I'll be going there just for a few days, 5 days to be precise, and then I'll be back. And I want to tour in England, because England is at its best in spring and summer and autumn. So I want to showcase England as much as I can when I get back from the wedding. So I'll be traveling along within the country with you guys. And yeah, so that's the plan. So anyway, thank you for watching. As I said, this is episode 1, travel health care insurance. We shall be tackling some other topics and challenges when traveling. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've watched this video until the end.